and the first sinking. This story is wild. There are three main players that we got to talk about. We have our captain, Lieutenant John Payne. He has never served on a submarine, which makes sense because there really haven't been submarines, but it's just to consider. And then we have a couple members of the volunteer civilian crew, Charles Hasker and Charles Sprague. So Payne, Hasker, and Sprague. And yeah, I get it. I get why you wouldn't have an experienced captain or crew because this is a first one. So yeah, they're gonna need some on-the-job training. If you think, okay, well, they surely practiced for like months and years and got this thing down to an art and a science, then think again. They trained for a few days, then Payne was like, yeah, we're good. We're good. Y'all pass.
Send it.
Guys, we're gonna do a full fucking send in this bitch.
Full send.
Full send. Oh, they sent it, but not in the way that they expected.
Yeah.
So now we come to August 29th, 1863, near Fort Johnson, South Carolina. The sub is being loaded. The hatches are open. Now, according to Charles Hasker, Payne was lifted into the manhole by a thick rope. And while he was getting lowered in, this dude accidentally hit the dive lever and the stub began to sink.
Pull the lever, Kronk.
Yeah, whoops.
Whoops! Why do we even have this lever?
A lever you're not supposed to touch.
Not touching. Well, you touch it. You touch the dive lever, but after the manholes are closed, they're open. They're open.
Payne was just confused. He just got the order wrong.
These times it was an accident. Other people claimed that no. This huge boat went by, and the wake from it splashed into the. I was like, okay, yeah, sure. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, sure. So Payne, of course, being on top, hadn't been lowered down. He just went whoops and skipped onto shore like nothing. So he got out. And then two other crew members escaped as well. Charles Sprague was close to the manhole and he just went, he jumped out. He managed to get free. But then Hasker tried to escape after him. And when he did, because he went second, and this thing was diving super fast, it's heavy, water's rushing in the holes, right? He actually got crushed. So the manhole cover slammed down across his back as he's crawling his way through the water as it's rushing in, and he's fighting his way out, and he finally pulls everything but his left leg free. And with that, he was carried all the way to the bottom, about 42 feet down. Once the sub hit the bottom, this guy reports he was able to lift the cover off because the pressure kind of equalized, and he swam to shore, or swam to freedom, basically. But he was the only one who made it out after it hit the bottom. All other 5 crew members died.
Yeah, that's horrifying.
The fact this guy literally got trapped, drug all the way down, and managed to still have the wherewithal to just be like, up? I don't even know how he did that. That's fucking impressive.
Yeah, good for him. So these boilers, right? The old pressure vessels that used to contain steam was the whole. They're big, they're heavy, they're thick, they're iron. And I feel like at this point, the Civil War is mostly fought in wooden boats. That's what we made. That's what was the most efficient at the time. During the Civil War was the beginning of the ironclads, iron boats and iron subs. So I just want to take a second to appreciate. I mean, if wood is what you have seen as float your whole life, guys willing to get into an iron tube in the water, I credit where credit's due. Good for them for being that, I guess, trusting. But
trusting, or the Civil War is also one of the deadliest and bloodiest wars that we have ever fought. Maybe they were like, I'm sick of dying on the front lines. I'll come here and see if maybe it's a little bit nicer. I'll take a shot.
You know what? Fair enough.
Fair enough. Really freaking horrible what happened to the first crew. And this was less than a week after the Confederacy was like, hey, Hundley, this is ours now. Okay, thanks, bye. BT dubs. Wrong lever. That's that's where the movie comes from. It's from the Hundley.
Hey, you remember that thing that we took from you? We want it back. We accidentally sunk it.
It's like, hey man, so that sub that you had that we like totally like borrowed, without permission. Well, here's the thing. It's so funny. You're gonna laugh.
Yeah, you're gonna think this is hilarious.
We're gonna all like joke about this years from now. We're never gonna live it down.
No, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and they didn't live it down because they weren't ready to call it quits. They were like, okay. The first one, sing to the swamp. But that's fine, guys. We are not ready to call it quits. And Hunley is like, bro, we have to try again. This is going to work. I just know it. So Hunley petitions Confederate General P.T. Beauregard to return the sub to him, to raise it from its watery grave so he could get a second volunteer crew. And General Beauregard in this story is probably one of the few I kind of have any sort of respect and feel for. Put a pin in him. He's going to become really important later. But first, they have to raise the Hunley. It's at the bottom of the ocean. Well, 42 feet, which in those days feels like the bottom of the ocean, right?
Yeah, deep.
Now, how do you raise an iron submarine from 42 feet during the Civil War?
Thoughts and prayers.
Good wishes! Nope. Oh, this is Beauregard, by the way. Scuba diving! They had to hire scuba divers to go down, attach iron chains to the Hunley so it could be raised and cleaned. And the dead bodies kind of like kicked to the side, like, what dead bodies? Shove that behind me. I mentioned this before earlier, but the fact that there were scuba divers in 1860 something, that sounds strange, but diving has been around, like you said, for all of human time. If there's been humans in water, it's like, that looks diveable. But also I feel like humans forever have been using the ocean as like a source of fascination, entertainment, enrichment. It's pretty. I mean, it's cool. It's really enjoyable on a hot day. It's fun. It's always been connected to who we are as a species, I think.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, I actually was able to find a picture of an ancient Assyrian carving here. Check this out. This actually depicts what people believe is a scuba diver. So you have the dude here, and they put the fish in. This is a really big fish. Like here's his leg, and that's the fish by comparison. Pretty fucking sweet. And look what he's breathing out of. Now, what does that look like?
Of some sort?
I know. Apparently, they think it's the stomach of a camel.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, is it as cool as the first backplate being made from a stop sign, or so legend goes?
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a pattern here.
I still say he should have been made out of a go sign, like "Let's go diving,"
Obviously.
obviously. But yeah, like scuba diving for them, they've been around for centuries. Now, starting from like 1500, 1600, we have all these varieties of like diving bells where people are like, how can we take people but put under the water? They've been testing it out for years and years and years and years. And then we get to 1837, and a guy named, oh, I'm gonna get his name wrong, Augustus Seb.
Can't even pretend to pronounce Siebi.
Siebi?
I have no idea. Yeah, I don't know.
Seb.
Good old August.
Yeah, good old, oh my God, yes, good. August over here. What a dude. August, that's my man. He's actually known as the father of deep sea diving because he invented what you think of as the classic antique scuba suit, the metal helmet with the attached like waterproof suit. But these guys didn't have like a tank on the back like what we have currently. They actually had a hose that was connected to the surface that would pump down air to the diver. And this is what inspired modern day scuba suits.
That's so cool. Thank you, August, the homie.
Oh my God, August is our fucking dude. This guy had our backs. This guy is like, fucking love him. Fucking love August. Funny aside, I love reading books with scuba diving in them because they mostly are really shit. And there was one where these two teenagers discover like a house in a lake, and the guy's like, oh well, my dad has some scuba equipment we can borrow, and it's one of these old suits with a hard hat and everything. And in the book they have to place like the pump for the air hose in a canoe, dive off that. And I'm thinking, has this dude ever heard of diving? And also, why couldn't he just have like regular modern scuba equipment? Because this shit is so heavy, it would have sank the canoe, and it didn't work as well. It was actually quite dangerous too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the first iteration of any new kind of technology.
it worked and people did survive, but there also was a lot of people who died. I think Mythbusters 2 did an episode where if there's a pressure inverse, a human could actually get sucked up into the diving bell and get crushed to death.
Yeah, it's called a delta P. It's also a thing, well, difference of pressure. It's a thing with modern commercial divers too. That's like the number one thing you have to watch out for when you're near any kind of man-made anything.
How does that happen where that changes and where you can get sucked up and crushed?
So it's like you concept of pressure underwater, we all know. So every 33 feet is 1 atmosphere.
Yeah,
So
118
you're
then. Yeah.
constantly increasing your pressure. What happens is if you take like let's say a pipe, like a 3-inch diameter pipe, and have it connected to that something else that is equally as deep but with no pressure behind it, like a saltwater tank at the side of the ocean. The amount of pressure pushing between the two will drag anything in front of it through, including you. So what happens is if you have a 4-inch pipe and you're right in front of it when this happens, you can be sucked through a 4-inch pipe. That's why it's like one of those, like we don't mess around, especially in commercial diving, with the safety plans with Delta P, because that is what causes problems.
Ooh, you basically become a bloody smoothie.
Yeah, well, or a sausage, however you want to look at it.
Oh, that's not any better. Oh my God. Oh
Yeah,
God, that's sick.
it's
Also,
scary.
these suits are fucking expensive. Like modern day ones of these things are like what, like thousands, like hundreds of thousands of dollars, right?
Yeah, I want to say most of them are like 45 to 50,000, something like that.
Fuck. And they're not any safer. Well, they're safer, but
They're not any more comfortable.
oh yeah, no, 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 no. But even still, the fact that this got some modern day stuff, August, you're the man. And how iconic is this diving helmet? Like, how cool is that?
That is really cool. I'm going to
I,
correct
I
what I said beforehand. It looks like they're about $10,000, but still.
$10,000. Okay, so they're a little more than a rebreather.
Yeah.
Well, they're in the range of like a rebreather.
Yeah, in that same realm.
Get a rebreather in that case.
Yeah,
Just get a fucking
absolutely.
Although, okay, what's more dangerous, a rebreather or one of these fucking things?
One of these things for sure.
I don't know, man. One CO2 hit and you're out on a rebreather. That's scary.
That's true. But you're also talking about 45 pounds of brass on your neck while you're underwater. I feel like that can't feel good.
I'll take the rebreather. I think the scuba divers who were involved in the the Hunley would have loved to have had rebreathers. We actually have the names of the scuba divers who were involved in the recovery of the Hunley. Angus Smith and David Broadfoot. Which to me is, I don't know why that detail really struck. The fact that we know the names of the guys that were involved and we know kind of what they were wearing, that's just special to me. Like these guys were pretty hardcore. They were some of the first scuba divers in history, and they were rescuing a piece of history. What the fuck?
Young hero for sure.
For sure, for sure. But I don't have any photos of them. I tried to find pictures of them. None of them could exist that I could find. But we do know the suits probably kind of looked like this. The helmets probably kind of looked like that. Maybe even something like this or so, this improved pump and diving dress. So use your imagination. But they also worked for nearly a week, again, attaching those chains and ropes so they could raise the Hundley. And they did it while Charleston was being shelled from above. So it wasn't like we're in Hawaii and it's like beautiful tropical and like a lovely day. It's like, nah, shit was going on. And they're like, well, we're gonna put on these depth suits that we have no idea if we're gonna be killed by pressure differential and go look for a sub full of dead bodies and bring it to the surface.
That's pretty hardcore. Oh yeah.
Yeah, scuba divers are badass, turns out.
I agree.
I agree. Thank you. All right. Are you ready for the second sinking?
Oh, let's get it.
Okay. So the Hunley was raised, the bodies of the crew were cleaned out, and within 2 weeks, the sub was ready to go. Now, Hunley, in his mind, being a lawyer, was pretty sure the sinking was the fault of the crew. He was convinced it was because they were not properly trained. Yep. He was like, yeah. This is definitely the problem. Not that it was related to the fact that it's literally a piece of fucking garbage. Yeah. So Captain Payne, who again, I know was probably an accident. He was like, whoops, wrong lever. He was like, no, I'm out. He was asked back and he said, fuck this. I'm gonna go fight in the front lines and get shot to death. Bye guys. Have fun on your floating coffin. So he took off. But Charles Sprague, who was one of the survivors from that first sinking, said, yeah, sure, I'll give it a second go.
Yeah, I understand that a whole lot less.
Well, he was the guy that was close to the exit, so all he had to do was crawl out and go. Whoop. He wasn't like the guy that had to like fight his way from the bottom of the ocean while was his leg was stuck. So, I guess maybe he thought it was fun.
Yeah, still.
Still. Anyways, so that guy came back for some fucking reason, and Hunley himself agreed, volunteered to pilot and personally train the crew.
I'm putting his money where his mouth is.
Yeah. Although I don't like the part where he's like, well, it failed because the crew was just a piece of shit. Okay, dude, like,
He's just trying to save face. He doesn't want to be the reason it's wrong.
yeah, I really wish he'd just been like, oh crap, I built a death machine and stopped while he was ahead. Because now we're gonna skip to the second sinking, October of 1863. Horace Hunley and crew gather to perform a test run, not an actual mission. This was literally a training day. There was a ship, floating out there, and they're like, yo, see that ship? Our mission, our training mission, is to get in the sub, dive under the ship, come up. That's all we have to do. You go down, and then you come up. What could go wrong, right? Simple, easy. Go down, come up. Two things to remember. And again, we have Horace Hunley operating the sub. He personally was there commanding the crew. Now, they did two dives. The first dive went okay. They went down, they came up. On the second dive, bubbles began appearing on the surface, but not the Hunley. And then the bubbles stopped. And a few hours later, everyone was presumed dead, including the inventor himself, Horace Hunley. And now, if you're keeping track, Confederacy versus Union, 13-0. We're doing really great here. Woo! We've killed 13 of our own men, and it's only the second sinking. And no one in the Union has been fucked over at all at this point. So what happened? What the fuck happened on the second sub? First of all, the same divers got this call. They're at the bar thinking, man, you won't believe the crazy shit we had to dredge out of the water the other week. Like, there was a submarine. Wait, I'm getting paged. Hello? Wait. Again?
Again?
I have to do this again?
Did they not learn the first time?
What do you mean you want me to find the same damn sub a second time, you assholes? What do you mean a second time? So they're like, oh, fucking fine. Okay, whatever. So they go down there, and as it was described, the Hunley was found nose down in the mud with her body at a 30-degree angle.
Ugh, with a lawn dart. That's what that is.
I think the Leaning Tower of Pisa, but like made of garbage and underwater.
Oh yeah, that works too.
Yeah, and full of dead Confederates.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, like, if this was how they found me, I'd be like, just leave me. This is so embarrassing.
Well, at some point they have to give up on this thing.
It was found like this. It's so embarrassing. Like, just leave. It wants to sink. It wants to sink more than anything. Let it sink. Let it go. Let it go.
I know
Jeez.
that one was also supposed to be the spooky one. First one, they found the people kind of where they were at. The second one, it was a lot scary on the inside. I know in the diver accounts, it was supposed to be something kind of horrifying.
No, it was a goddamn nightmare because they knew they were in trouble and they knew they were going to die. So they were like twisted and contorted and clearly trying to like find any kind of escape, any kind of air bubble. Their faces were apparently described as being like faces of horror. It was absolutely just, oh my God. Yeah, it was nightmare fuel. and like some were grasping candles, some were like floating in certain areas where they clearly had moved around. It was not a piece. It was, yeah. Oh my God. It literally, it's my worst nightmare if that had been me on that ship. But it wouldn't be, because I would look at it and go, fuck you. Go fuck yourself.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely fuck you not. And here's the thing that I found just really like ironic. The sub's keel weights had been loosened, so the crew apparently realized that they were fucked and tried to become unfucked, like, which we know, but also a forward ballast tank valve had been opened, which meant seawater was flooding into the submarine. And the wrench that was used to operate this valve was found on the floor, meaning that Horace Hunley either forgot to close it or lost the wrench and was unable to find it and close it.
They weren't properly trained.
But remember, the inventor of the sub was on board to ensure proper operation and training, and he hadn't properly operated shit. So fucking mad. You lost the wrench needed to save us from drowning? What?
Yeah, wait, you had one job.
Close the valve that sinks us and kills us all. Thanks, fucker. Oh my God, if I were a ghost of that crew, I'd be so mad. I'd be like haunting Hunley forever in hell. I'd be like, you fucker mother, god damn it. Oh, and even funnier, it was only after this, when Hunley died, after ensuring proper operation, lost the wrench, the sub was named after him in his honor.
That's kind of rude. I would be pissed.
Would you be mad if, like, I mean, I think it's kind of poetic justice, really, though.
Yeah, but like, imagine inventing a car and then it's horrible, and then they name it after you because it's horrible.
God, I think they were thinking they were honoring him or something, but no. And again, the home team has lost 13 people. 13 Confederates have been killed. The Confederates wanted this thing to kill Union soldiers, and they just killed like over a dozen of their own men, including the inventor. And the Union guys are sitting back going, the fuck are they doing over there? Y'all okay?
Well, and this whole time, that blockade in Charleston Harbor is still there. So no one's able to get anything. No one's able to trade anything. Food's not coming in or out.
So the people are like, why are y'all playing with this fucking useless submarine? What is your goddamn deal? Obviously. And General Beauregard, the guy that I said I had somewhat respect for, he was so horrified by like what he saw. Which, yeah, I would be too, because clearly they had been trying to save themselves and had drowned and died in the most horrible, frightening format. And this guy nearly quit on the spot, saying this thing was more dangerous than the enemy. Look at the scoreboard. He's not wrong. The man has a point. Except, along comes our bad boy TikTok star of the story, Lieutenant George E. Dixon. My man Dix here. That's his b-boy name, Dix.
Good old Dix. I like me some Dix.
Oh no, wait. If he's having a b-boy name, he's Spinning Dix.
Spinning Dix.
Helicopter Dix. He's Helicopter Dix.
A whirling Dick. Good old whirling Dick over there.
Okay, this guy had been recruited by a Hunley before his death, and he was so sure. He was so confident. I don't know why, but he was so confident. No, I will be the one that will captain this Hunley to glory. Again, why did he think that? Was he Delulu? Maybe the war fucked with his brain. I don't know. He took a bad fall and conked his head and thought he could captain a fucking sub that's killed a dozen of his fellow soldiers. Fucking hell, I don't know. Apparently, this guy was like really, really hot shit back then. Like, what do you think? What do you think of this guy? How would you describe his face?
Have you ever seen like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Yeah.
That's kind of the picture that I picture in my head when I see. If I were to see this picture in a dark house, I would know that I'm not leaving the house. If I were to see this picture in the Hunley, I was part of the first crew.
So sorry to inform you that he was described by another commander as being very handsome, fair, nearly 6 feet tall, and of most attractive presence.
You know what? I kind of get it. You
You
know, like,
do?
who's that actor? Never mind. Talk about that later. Sorry. I
Kevin
got
Bacon?
Kevin Bacon is a nice man. No, he played Hannibal, also in like the James Bonds.
Anthony.
Now, he has a very intense face, but I find him very attractive too. So maybe that's what this is.
Fair enough. All right. Apparently, yeah. So apparently this guy's like local hotshot. He also was a legend in the Confederacy because that there was a legend about him that in a battle in 1862, I think the Battle of Shiloh, he was shot in the leg. But instead of dying, because back then you get shot, you die. You can't like go to a hospital and have the doctors like snip, snip, so, you're good to go. Have fun. But instead of dying, the bullet actually struck a gold coin that he had in his pocket, and that saved his life. He had a limp afterwards, but he was alive. He didn't bleed out, right?
That's really cool. That's if it's true, that's really cool.
Yeah, and the coin apparently had been a gift from his girlfriend when he left because, yeah, he's like, honey, I'm gonna go defend the right to slavery. And she's like, oh, that's nice, dear. Here's a gold coin. Good luck.
Yeah, it was.
Anyways, also, the gold coin story, put a pin in that. Okay, so now we have Captain Whirlindix, and we need a third crew. Another funny story here. One site I found lists the majority of these men as sailors on board the very ship. Okay, so now we have Captain Whirlindix, Helicopter Dix, Wigglin Dix, but now we need a crew. Do you remember during the second sinking that the mission was for the Hunley to dive under a ship and come back up, and that was the mission of that test run, right? Well, a majority of the crew of the third Hunley were volunteer sailors from the ship that was involved in the second sinking, meaning they definitely knew what happened.
I was gonna say they were there.
They I don't know if they were there when it happened, but they probably were, or at the very least, they heard about it and they were like, yeah, that sounds good. I mean, it definitely has killed like a dozen of our people, and we saw how horrifying it was, but I definitely think I'm gonna get lucky with this one.
I definitely feel like this is one of those histories. Like, yeah, we promised they were volunteers. This was definitely like one of the rich guys told them, "Hey, yeah, you guys are going on the sub now. Try again."
Yeah, and they were like, "You can't." It was like the kamikaze pilots where they had to be carried into their plane because they refused to get on. They were probably like carried and like thrown in, like, okay, that's one, that's two, and so on. Yeah, except Dix, who was like, guys, quick, can we get a selfie? Hashtag Hunley. Now, the one exception to the third crew was a guy named Miller. There are actually official records on everybody else where it says like formerly like a sailor on like, this ship, blah, 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 except for Miller, which is very strange. Just says Miller, Hunley volunteer crew. And part of the artifacts found on the Hunley after she was raised was a set of clothing that was different than the typical uniform that would have been worn by sailors. So who was this Miller guy? Was he a random civilian? Did he just wear his own shit because he was like, if I'm gonna die, I'm wearing my favorite set of PJs? Who was this guy? Who was Miller?
I feel like he's just some homie. I don't even know.
Could you imagine Captain Dibs rolling up in the sub like, hey dude, you want to go blow some shit up in the death coffin? And Miller being like, fuck yeah, that sounds like an awesome way to spend a Friday night.
Yeah, say less, homie.
Get in the death coffin, bitch. We're gonna go murder some Union sailors.
I'm gonna wear my PJs.
This is gonna be great. We're gonna have a slumber party. We're gonna get to know each other. Wait, why are we sinking?
Make friendship bracelets.
Oh, actually, they discovered a skeleton in the Hunley that actually was mid through a friendship bracelet.
Mid making a friendship bracelet. It was weird.
It was so weird. I wonder where that fucking Miller, am I right? Trying to make everyone homies. So now we have a new captain, we have a new crew, and Beauregard finally was like, okay, I really don't like this, but you have my okay, sure, you can go try a third time. But Beauregard was fed the fuck up with how many people the Hunley had killed. He was like, fuck this shit. I'm putting my foot down. And in an attempt to make things safer, Beauregard ordered no more diving. You stay on the surface. You do not go under the water. You stay on top. On top, good. Under, not good. Say it with me. On top, good. Under, no, 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 no. Now, to make this plausible, the Hunley was refitted with a spar stick-like device with a bomb on the end. What does that sound like to you that we talked about earlier?
Oh, those little, yeah.
Yeah, the torpedo boats they had. And if you're wondering, wait, at that point, you could just use a fucking torpedo. Yes, just use a like at this point, I don't want them to win because they're fighting to keep slavery and I hate the Confederate. But they're being so dumb. I want them to have a win just to be like, because I'm just so fed up with them being so dumb. Just use a David. You have this. You don't need to put 8 men in the line of fire for this. Just to do the same thing you have, but more stupid. They refitted the Hunley. They have their orders. But when I say Captain Dix was a bad boy, what I mean was Beauregard had forbidden the crew to dive in case of an accident. Now, Dix was like, hang on a second. Like, I'm concerned about this. And he decided to have himself a little think. He's like, okay, the Union lookouts are a hazard because we're slow. There's a 4-knot current with the tide. Then we're going at like 4.2 knots. So what if they see us and they shoot at us? And Dix convinced himself in his little brain the best strategy was to dive. Because that way you could avoid an attack. Ha 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 ha. So that whole like Beauregard's command, do not dive because I don't want you guys to fucking die and I really insist you don't dive. Well, Dix was like, technically Beauregard hasn't said the sub couldn't dive after we dropped the bomb, just before we dropped the bomb.
Look who's being a lawyer now.
Oh my god! He did like a well, actually, to Beauregard in regards to commands to try and save his life.
Yeah, absolutely became a sea lawyer all of a sudden.
Yep, this guy really wanted to dive. They even did a test dive, a time trial on a dive. The plan was to sink this Hunley, rest on the bottom, and just sit there until someone in the crew said up, at which point they would ascend to the surface. That was it. They were like, we'll just do a test and see what happens. The test nearly killed them, by the way. Horrific. The description in the book that I was using for part of my research said the only light they had was from a candle, obviously, and the candle would not burn due to lack of oxygen. When the first person says up, we're going to go up. But if you're a sailor with a bunch of dudes and it's like, who's going to say it first? Are you going to say first? Are you going to crack first? Or are you going to wait for someone else to crack?
Well, and we also just talked about how small that thing is. And you have, what, 13 people in it? Or not 13, you have
8.
Eight people in it?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you. That's not a fight you're going to win.
Yeah. And I have to imagine, I have to wonder if they were like all trying to be like, okay, I'm not going to say it first because I want bragging rights and I'm brave and I don't want to be the guy who calls up first. So you say it first, right?
Yeah, I would assume so. Or they're just waiting for the captain of the boat. That's who I would assume would bring us back up. Whoever's driving the damn thing.
I know, right? They're like, well, maybe he wants to do it when he wants to do it, right? Now, apparently, they all just sat there. Who's going to say it? Who's going to say it? And the story goes that at the same time, they all tapped out and were like, fuck it. Nope, nope, nope. Out, 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 up, up, up. We're fucking done with this shit. Which, yeah, you are. You are. You need to get out.
I said, you're done. You're done.
You're cooked. Put a fork in your steak. You're done. But here's the thing. When they went to turn the pump on to dump the water out that would let them rise, nothing happened.
Oh.
Ooh, a piece of seaweed had gotten into the pump and clogged it.
Not good.
Now, according to the research material, they were able to clear it and the crew was finally able to escape. But they had been gone for 2.5 hours and had been reported dead.
Oh.
This should have been oh crap, guys, we can't do this. But they were like, no, we're going. They did more test runs. They did these night trial runs where they would like sneak up to Union ships and like see how close they could get. But the weather was never good enough for them to actually launch an attack. Although sometimes they were able to like hear the sailors like singing and chatting. So they were still doing tests and getting ready for the mission apparently. But the timing was never quite right to do the splody splody boom bomb stick thingy until February of 1864. Conditions were right. It was clear, calm, and chilly. And the target, the USS Housatonic. Man, the names back then were fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Housatonic? What kind of name is that? So, again, this thing had been basically become a giant man-powered David with a little boomstick at the end. Now, the plan was to roll on up the Housatonic with the bomb stick and then back off, go make a hard right, deja vu, drift, Tokyo drift the shit out of there before the bomb exploded and the ship sank, and then signal to shore and then come back and then, yay, mission done. We've sank our first ship and we are golden, going down in history. So that was the plan. And it kind of worked. I mean, at this point, the Union knew that there were submarines. They'd found like the wreckage, they knew about the David, so they weren't like completely unprepared. On this night, when they were looking out, they suddenly saw around like 8:30 or so what they thought was like a log. And someone else was like, nah, that ain't a log. It's moving a little too slow. I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's a porpoise. Ooh, it has malicious porpoise.
Absolutely.
Abso-fucking-lutely. But eventually the crew was like, ah, shit, no, it's a submarine. God damn it. And they tried firing on it. But again, this thing is made of iron. So bullets aren't really going to do a damn thing, especially not when it's close enough where they're like, ah, shit, we're fucked. The bomb stick made contact with the Housatonic, exploding a giant hole in the side and finally killing enemy combatants. 5 soldiers from the Housatonic died in the sinking.
That was the first case of a successful submarine attack in U.S. history.
All for the sake of maintaining slavery.
Yeah. Yeah. At the cost of what? We're at like 17 people now?
Oh God, I think we're up to like 20 or something. Like it's absolutely like, yeah. So 8, 6, yeah, 21 people, I think at this point. It's 21 people or so. And we say 21, not 13, because the crew of the Hunley didn't have time to celebrate their victory, as the crew were probably already dead at the time of explosion, although it is highly contested. Boom!
One of them is like the bomb concussive blast might have killed them right then and there, and the other one is something happened that had them sink afterwards, right?
Yep. Also, just for like a visual aid, it's literally a stick. I don't know why it's so funny. And then the final moments of the Housatonic. I love it. Oh, wait, okay, get there in a second. Okay. So whatever the case, the Hunley never resurfaced. And there were no report sightings. I mean, okay, there were report sightings. People were like, yeah, we saw the light that she like, woo, she flagged us, but then she vanished. But that's also debated. Maybe that was someone being like, oh, and it didn't actually happen. We don't know. But she was never seen again for another 130 years until 1995, when a crew of modern day scuba divers who was looking for the Housatonic was like, okay, we're gonna like explore every piece of wreckage around the Housatonic wreck, anything that has a weird, like large metal signature. We're gonna poke it and see what's up because it has to be around here somewhere. And this mission had been going on for years and years and years and years. People have been looking for this thing since it sank, but had never been successful. Which I have a question for you about that, but after I finish this bit. So finally, they're here. They're poking around with a stick. Poke, 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 poke. Bang. And they feel something metallic 3 feet down. And they go, well, that's real weird. Why is that so solid? So they clear a little hole. They dredge a little bit and discover a smooth surface not covered in barnacles. And they're thinking, okay, it's a piece of dredging pipe. Until they come across a shape that feels like a tree stump, followed by a hinge. and a conning tower. Dredging pipes don't have those, but the Hunley did.
Dun dun dun.
Also, the fact that it was like 3 feet in the mud. How did no one find it for 130 years? How the fuck did nobody find it for 130 years? Is the water really that bad?
You want to hear something kind of spooky?
Yes.
So there have been missing nuclear bombs in the US since the Cold War. And it seems we've accidentally dropped a handful of nuclear bombs in the US, like Missouri and the more muddy states. The mud there in the swamps is so aggressive that it will suck anything in and then hide its signature. We still can't find those bombs. They're still out there somewhere. But the mud even blocks the radiation. So yeah, totally, I would believe that you couldn't find it for 130 years.
Are these bombs still explodable?
They are still active, yeah. They are still active nuclear bombs.
What are the chances of someone finding it and it exploding?
Probably pretty low. I'm not sure if they were armed. I just know that they were active, dropped by the Air Force by accident on the US.
We accidentally bombed ourselves? What the fuck?
Yeah, with the nuke.
What do we accidentally nuke ourselves, Sam? What are you telling me?
Yeah, if you ever want a fun conspiracy theory, just go online and look up number of bombs lost by the US. And they're all listed up there.
Oh God. Okay, I am now freaked out. Okay, I'm gonna move on because I'm scared now.
Sorry about
my God. Damn you, Sam. I'm gonna have nightmares about this. Okay. So I heard a report about oh fuck. My next fun fact was about how deep this thing was, and like, can you believe it was only X deep? Because divers who were involved in this operation were going like up and down, and like up and being like, oh, I got something. Dive back down, dig, 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 go up. Oh my God, it's a conning tower. Dive back down, dig, 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 go up. Ah! And I'm thinking, okay, how deep were they? Where they were like, whoop, 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 whoop.
Couldn't be that deep.
Guess.
I don't know. About 40, 50 feet, maybe.
Close. 30.
Oh, okay.
30 feet deep. But you could have answered how it was hidden for 130 years at 30 feet deep. Like, fuck.
Yeah, that's not very. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not. But the fact that it was so shallow, what you said makes sense. I mean, especially if it got sank into the mud, like the mud went.
Yeah, I'm sure it just completely enveloped itself. And then, I mean, the currents are crazy out there, so I don't know how they found it. Just got uncovered eventually. Yeah.
I mean, what happened was it was 1995, so modern day equipment. They were looking for like large metal signatures using modern day like scanning equipment, and they were basically saying, okay, anything that has a huge metal signature or like that, we're going to like poke and see what it is, whether it's like scrap or maybe like a lost sub, just to check out what it is. Because this is near the wreck of the Housatonics. They're just kind of scanning around what's large enough to maybe be in that area and like ruling it out. And that's how they found it. They didn't think it was the Hunling at first. They were like, it's probably a dredging pipe or something until they found
Okay.
yeah, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, it's insane. But they finally found it. Now the sub is found. How did it sink for the final time? This is incredibly debated. And I want to look at some pieces of evidence that they found after the sub was raised and excavated, because they have at this point pulled out everything, all the artifacts. They're analyzing it. They've like recovered the bodies of the crew and like everything they were wearing and things like that. And it can really tell us like what happened. So when the scene was unveiled, the bodies were actually in a very peaceful position. They were kind of just where they had fallen. Like they were still at their seats. There was no evidence that there had been a rush. There was no evidence that the crew tried to like crawl over each other or like move or anything. None of the emergency levers had been activated. They were all still locked in place, almost like there hadn't been a panic. And that suggests to researchers, okay, maybe they hadn't known they were sinking, right? Which doesn't answer the question completely, but it does point to they didn't know they were dying. So does that mean that the explosion that occurred, again, when it hit the Housatonic, it exploded immediately. It wasn't supposed to. They were supposed to drop off the bomb and then Tokyo drift the fuck away, right? That didn't happen. They poked it, boop, and then it exploded instantaneously. So did the shock of that wave kill everyone on impact?
That's definitely what my money's on, especially because they were all found in their spots and supposed to be like a relatively like in position even after all those years. Like either they were the most stone cold people ever or they were knocked unconscious or something in my head.
Yeah, something like that. And actually, there was a study at Duke University where they conducted this experiment. They made a scale model of the Hunley, and then they blew it up on a pond to measure the blast forces. And that appeared to confirm their theory, but it's not 100%. It's other people say, no, 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 no. Obviously, they dove down afterwards, came up, signaled to the shore crew, as some people have reported they saw a signal from the Hunley, and then they went back down. But you would think if they signaled and went back down, there would have been like a panic. They would have realized, oh, wait, unless I can't imagine a scenario where they came up, went back down, and just sat and died peacefully, unless maybe they all got a huge CO2 hit from something and passed out before they realized they couldn't come up, which doesn't make sense according to what we know about previous dives and experiments done by the crew. It doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that's just gonna be one of those fun mysteries that never really you can't answer for sure, but I do think it was the bomb. I would make the most sense in my head.
Yeah, like the fact that they were so close, the shockwave just kind of traveled through the submarine, just kind of like concussed them.
And it's kind of wrong. It's kind of messed up to say, but I also think that's the most peaceful option in my head.
Honestly, the fact that they were found in very peaceful positions where clearly they had no idea what was happening versus the second sinking where they were very clear on what was happening and panicked and it freaked everybody out how horrible it was. Yeah, I prefer the quick, easy, painless method.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So hate Confederates. I hate like the Southern Confederacy and their whole like fight for slavery thing, but RIP, because that's still a pretty awful way to go out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
Now,
I don't wish death on any. Well,
don't
I
wish
mean,
death. I wish to have a very stern conversation about why you're supporting what you're doing, and maybe we can change your mind about why you want to own people. Maybe we can have a talk about this.
Can we talk?
Maybe a few slaps across the face if you really are being racist, but we'll see about that.
We'll burn that bridge when we get there.
Yeah, we're gonna burn something underwater. Now, last things last. One last story. Along with the crew, scientists discovered something up near the commander's post in the sub. It was a gold coin, dented and engraved with the words, "My life preserver."
Oh.
And look
Oh.
at the initials.
Oh, is it here? It's the
Dixon's.
spinning dick.
I wish this said spinning dick on it. So the gold coin, the legend of him getting shot and carrying it as a like a lucky charm, it appears to be real, and he was carrying that coin on him when he died, and it's now on display along with the Hunley in South Carolina.
That's really cool.
Yep. And that is the story of the H.L. Hunley.
And look at us now.
Look at us now. What are we doing now?
Well, we almost always come back up after we dive. That's pretty great.
Wait. Almost always. What if you not come up after you've dove?
I have been pretty successful in my life so far, I'm just saying.
Oh my God. I just have to do my pony bottle too so that I have a better chance of coming up after I dive. Oh yeah, it's now a din versus a yoke, which everyone has been on my ass to switch to din. My yoke is now dead, by the way. It's gonna go on the shelf as an antique because it's a scuba pro.
Really?
Oh no, sorry, US Divers. Sorry, it's US Divers.
Oh, yeah. No, I knew that. Yeah, US Divers has been out for a while. So...
Why was I saying Scuba? Scuba Pro is still around. I love Scuba Pro, but no, it's US Divers, and yeah, that thing is finally dead. R.I.P. It's as dead and wet as the Hunley.
You know what? It held on. I credit where credit's due. That's a pretty impressive little regulator.
I do miss going to the shops and having these old salty dogs give me a look like, you keep it in very good shape, don't you? Maybe like, yes, I do. But then But then they were like, how often do you dive on that thing? Like a couple times a year? It's like,
Literally constantly. I have not stopped.
I haven't stopped. Sam, any final thoughts on the Hunley or the story and whether or not this thing was good, bad, stupid, or just kind of fun? I think it's a mixture for me.
Yeah, credit where credit's due. I know we made a lot of fun of them. I will give credit of like submarines are a great thing now, and someone had to start it at some point. And basically every story ever where someone does something for the first time has to have a series of just horrible tragedies before it actually works. So I do give him credit, and it is a really, really cool story that's stranger than fiction, but also, you know,
Quit defending slavery. Slavery's bad, guys. Like, I really wish that this had been like a not for people who wanted to own human beings kind of thing. That's just that's gross. That really taints it for me. And the fact that there's still like pride or like I get the pride, but I really think you have to have it within context. Like, yes,
yeah,
this is where how far we've come from this, but you can't forget the origins because that also affected like how it was handled. Even the fact that the Confederacy stole it from the inventor himself after the work he put into it kind of shows their lack of care for people in general,
yeah,
like
yeah, very
superiority.
much so.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing this story with me. It was awesome.
Thanks for involving me.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me, Sam. And until next time, don't go on the floating coffin death sub.
I'll try my best.